All right, when we're doing the harness, it's a basic position we've all done. It's a game that we play though in our entire gym that the 5-year-olds do all the way through, and we've been very successful with. The harness, everybody, it's just this position here when you're over the top of the collarbone and then you're under the armpit and you're here. Grip-wise, we'll go palm to palm because that's what I prefer. Different grips can be taken broken, and this is a strong grip because if I do any other type of grip, I'm using my finger strength or I'm using my arm strength and I can fatigue. So as the match progresses, I want to be able to hold on just on the structure of it. So if I do this or this, if this guy's strong, he can maybe pry it open. But if I do this, the more he tries to pull it apart, it actually tightens. Okay? That's why I like this grip. It's actually getting tighter naturally and it's not causing me any fatigue. The other thing is I don't want to grip down low by the middle of his chest because he can push my hands down and strip the hands that way. So whenever I have the harness from the back of the opponent, I'm going to be up high towards his chin. Plus when we go into choke, this is what's going to come across or across to finish. So always have your harness up above the sternum and up here. The other thing I want to do is cinching, which means I'm going to bring my elbows towards my floating ribs or towards my hips down. So I'm locked in here. Next thing I want to do is I don't want to have my elbows flared. I actually want to yank the elbows in. It doesn't cost me much energy and it's putting some restriction on his breathing. So as you see the pins and as we move, you'll see me going palm to palm and yanking the elbows in. The other thing is, a lot of people have seen this with hooks and different things. It's a position to them. We see it as a position of transition. It's both. So we always go to this, and it's a go-to move. Typically when you wrestle, everybody's passing the guard, going the crossbody, or going to mount, or going different places, north-south. That's fine, but then everybody's trained to defend against that by going to their knees or pulling guard. So what we've discovered is, as the game progresses and you're going against purple belts and up, for example, it's very hard to get crossbody or mount off a good player, and it takes away all your energy. And again, we're going for the distance and trying to conserve energy. So the harness is, and as hopefully you'll see throughout the DVD, the harness is something that we see it as the primary position of transition. So as I'm going to crossbody and mount and north-south and my opponent moves, rather than sit there and grind and try to get it, I'll go to harness and I'll show you how to get there. And it's a simple place that you can control the guy completely, and it's not a typical position. So that's another benefit that we use the harness for. So once again, I'm going to be starting off showing you basically the grips, which is palm to palm, above the sternum up high, and then cinch, which is bring your elbows in and curl the body and lock it this way. Typically when I teach the harness, I'll teach it from crossbody. Obviously when you're teaching this or working it, wherever it happens, you get it, right? But from crossbody, the pin that I usually use to motivate my opponent to offer up the position is, we call it crush sides. Lately it's been called the shoulder of justice by John Kavanagh from Ireland. But basically what I'm doing is I want to have my shoulder across John's face, across his jawline. I'm going to pin using my knee to pin control his hip. But rather than control it on the hip itself, which is commonly the way I was taught, I like to go a little bit higher towards his floating rib. We got a lot of guys that you'll see in our gym that are very wiry and fast, and if I pin down here, they still manage to get their shin across. So I'm going to pin a little higher, and I'm going to control solar plexus, the chest area. Okay. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I control this side of the hip with my elbow. So when I'm in here, this hand will be on the mat, my shoulder's in his jaw, my knee will be just a little bit higher, which will be right about floating rib. And that's where I want it because I can control them and I can keep away from the legs, which I always want to try to do, okay? The other thing is when I'm back here, I'm going to keep this elbow on the floor. I might go palm to palm to cinch it in again, that principle of cinching. If you look at it from the other way, and that's the way we developed our game, this is the harness from the front, okay? Not as important right now because we always want to have it from the back or from the side, but this would basically be a harness, just like a front headlock is a harness, okay? So I have the body harnessed. I'm controlling the upper body, the chest. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have my leg in the back, I'm going to be on my toes, and I'm going to line up my ankle, the back of my knee, the hips, and the shoulders across his jawline. When you teach this, if the student does this, he's obviously not aligned. His ankle's further away, and it's not even, so I want a straight line. When I teach the kids, I put a stick across. I walk around and I put a stick across from their head down, and I go, look at yourself, and they'll adjust. But I want a straight line like this, which I'm then going to go at about a 30-degree angle and drive it into John's jaw and drive it down, so he's in a lot of discomfort. Some people will tap, or they'll panic and move, and that's exactly what I want, okay? Again, using the harness from on top in this case. Most of wrestling and a lot of jiu-jitsu is controlling the hips. With the harness, we're letting that go. We're not controlling the hips at all. we're controlling the upper body, which is the other side of the coin, okay? And then if you obviously been trained jiu-jitsu and wrestling, you're used to controlling the hips, and that's usually what you've spent your time doing. Hopefully with the harness, you'll get used to controlling the upper body specifically, and from there work everything, okay? So back where we were, I'm in here, I got my shoulder across, I got my knee in his ribs, and then I'm driving back in a straight line. Now, if you'll notice from right in here, some people have a tendency to do this with this leg. And again, some people are long and flexible, they'll hook this leg either with the top leg or the bottom leg. So if I'm in here, John can use his feet to hook and create a couple of things that they can get out from. So when I'm here, this foot, I'll hide it under this knee. So it's hidden. Then again, I bring my knee a little higher and I hide the foot, okay? Now I have this arm pinned, so it's not like he can reach under my ankle and try to do something here, okay? This arm is here. So I'm here, I'm hiding this foot from this leg. I have my shoulder in his face. I'm getting up as high as I can across the straight line. Now, when I start applying pressure, I'm gonna get up on my toes and bend my leg. I bend my leg on purpose because now I'm just gonna sprint. I'm just gonna go ahead and lunge with this leg. When I'm in here, I start driving this through. And as I drive it through, that's what brings the discomfort to the person. So I'm in here, I got position. I might have passed the guard and landed. The second I land, this foot hides and come up to this position. Shoulder in the face, get ready for that lunge, and then drive. And that's what causes that. And that's what I want. A lot of people will tap. If not, the main thing's not causing a tap there. It's just creating the motivation that I need to get them to move. Okay, so the first one we're gonna do is, beginners do this a lot, or a very advanced player. Usually in the middle, people very conservative. I'm gonna take this arm because he's gonna roll that way. Again, beginners will do it because they don't know any better, or the advanced person will do it because they already figure their timing's good enough where they can escape. But here I am. As he starts to turn away, I let him and I drive my hips in. So I was down low, driving straight down. As he creates pressure and tries to even hint that he's going in that direction, I just take my head to the ceiling and push my hips in. So as soon as he starts moving a little bit, I drive in. As soon as I drive in, I'm gonna start locking the harness in. So I'm in here, or I'm in here, I'm in here, or I'm grabbing fabric, okay? I'm driving in tight, he starts to move, I hip in and lock. And that's the beginning of the harness. That's exactly where I wanted to be. I just got to this position. I'm not chasing him, I'm not trying to do anything else. I'm right locked in. From this position, obviously some people are gonna step over and start applying their hooks that way, and other people are gonna try to sit them up. But that's the first one. One more time. I'm in here, foot hidden, got that lunge, start driving a lot of pressure in. He starts to try to bail, let it go. One more time. I'm in here, I'm driving it hard, he starts to go, let go, palm to palm, as he moves, lock it. Okay? A key factor when you do the harness and people start playing, if you're used to a very tight game and a crushing game, that's fine, but you're never gonna be able to get it if you don't create a little bit of space. So the way this works is you create enough pressure where the person wants to go, and you let them go at your discretion. You're choosing when to do it. As soon as you let them go and they shoot, you grab it. So here I am. I can keep this arm down if I wanted to and just create pressure, but what's this gonna do? If he's not tapping, nothing's happening. So I'm gonna create just a little bit of an opening so he thinks he can get out or move around at least. As soon as he tries to move, I let it go and lock. Okay, that was attaining the harness from the near side arm using the shoulder of justice or the crush side position, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the far side arm. This is probably the higher percentage one and the one you'll see mostly in us pulling in tournaments or in class. And the one I usually get if I'm playing on the side is the far arm. Simply because the near side arm, people are really going to protect it. You're usually digging that elbow down into the ground, okay? But that's why the idea of attacking the jaw is so important. If you're playing with the kimono, feeding the gi over and trying to apply a choke will get them to turn. So if I'm in here with the kimono and I pull across and start choking, that obviously motivates them to turn, and then I can either finish the choke, or if he's protecting the choke really well, then the heck with that and I get the harness, okay? So just keep in mind that this is going to be difficult to get most of the time. That was the easiest one. So I'm back to this. I'm back to my position. I'm putting a lot of pressure, but he's hiding that arm. I might not be able to get to the gi. He might not have a shirt on. This could be submission wrestling. I can't get that near side arm, so I'm going for the far one. This elbow's tucked in. He's got a good posture. What I'm going to do now is, we all know from fishing for the kimuras and key locks, is I'm going to try to get underneath his elbow. So if this elbow's in tight, I'm in this position, all I'm going to do is lift a little bit as I come over, and I'm going to grab and I'm going to bring my wrist into his armpit, okay? So one more time, he's got posture, he's in tight, he's not giving me this pretty easy. But I'm in here, so what I'll do is, if he doesn't give it to me and I can't get in, I'll just start putting pressure on his face. Then I'll lift, grab. Now when I go here and I put my fist in his armpit, this hand's gonna come back and control this hip. Okay, so he can't get to his knees as fast. If he was gonna try to get to his knees that way, as I move around, the hand that's on the hip would pick up the elbow. So that's why I use that far hand, okay? So it's controlling the hip, and it's picking up this elbow so he can't spin out on me too quickly. Not that it's an issue, that's why I like the harness again. Because no matter how fast he moves, I'm not looking for the traditional positions, I'm looking for the harness, which is again, that position of transition, okay? So here I am. I'm driving in, I can't get that near side arm, I lift, I go here, this one comes to here. Now, all I'm gonna do now as I come around is I'm gonna get to this position and get onto my toes. If he rolled away, it'd be easy, okay? But what I'm gonna do with my toes is I'm gonna squat and punch with the hand that's in the armpit. As I squat, I'm getting this motion, and as I punch, I'm driving his arm like this. Together, that gets me to the harness. So, I'm here, lift, wrist in the armpit. If he's got a gi on, I grab underneath now to his collar. This hand comes back, I grab the pant leg or the shorts, or his elbow. As I come around, back to the squat, punch and drive, and then this hand gets low, and I get the harness. From this side, I'm in here, I'm hiding my foot, shoulder in the face, everything's pretty much driving into him, but he won't give me that near side arm. I switch, wrist inside the armpit, block. Come around. As I'm coming around, I'm driving this elbow here, pushing my weight down until I get to that squat. I'm just driving it across, see? And then as I keep punching and driving, I'm gonna go ahead and turn him over. And there's my harness. So, I'm here, driving, 1, 2, full harness. That's how we take the forearm. When I attack that forearm, it can also come in the form of just going for a kimura. That's another way of teaching it, so everybody knows it. He might be here, this arm might be on this side, we all know. He's here, and I might be going here. Easy. Come around, harness. That was an easy one. If you have a student that's here, that they would typically go here, same thing. He grabs his shorts. We all know different ways to disconnect this, but how hard is it? And meanwhile, he's trying to get out. I might give it a couple shots. I might triangle his head. All different tactics to get that kimura, but it doesn't really matter. I just sprawl in, harness, and I got that harness position. The harness I've showed near side and far side, and I'm going to show you this basic and extension, attaining it from north-south. What I'm showing you now is how to get to the harness. I'll show you all the different finishes you can get from each position in a second, but I'm just showing you all the variables that allow the position to come into play. So if I am in north-south, we all know elbows over the top, one way, around both arms, second way, this arm over, this arm under, this one, this one. 4 basic positions that I can pin somebody from here. When you're doing a harness, I'd want either both, one over, one under. This is probably the more secure of everything, of the positions there. This was probably the one that gives him a little bit more mobility, but since I'm not concerned with his hips in this position so much, if I have his elbows, try to go that way, John, I'm controlling it. If he tries to go to his knees that way, I'm just controlling the elbows. So controlling the elbows can actually control the hips, keeping that same principle of not fighting the hips anymore, not trying to control the hips, just getting the heck away from them and controlling the upper body. So I'll usually pin here. If I do this, he knows that the only vulnerable arm is this one, for the most part. Yes, I can come around and do different things with this side, but for the most part, if I'm over and under, he knows this is the one to protect, okay? I don't want to give that signal, I'm just going to control both. He doesn't know which side I'm coming on, this way or this way. Now, if he goes to his knees, let's say this way, great. Hips in, head up, okay? If he decides to go to his knees that way, hips in, head up. Now, you have, again, that's why I like the position so much. If I'm in here and he rolls, let's say, towards the camera, going to his knees, I can hold this as long as I need to, if I'm tired, to come around and control it slowly before I lock in the harness. Or, if I'm comfortable with it, I know the position, I can just be loose, just go. He can just go and I can lock it. And then go for wherever I'm going to play with. Okay, so, if you're going to pin from here, try to get both over. Okay? one's what you're gonna need. If I'm here, I'm obviously gonna have to swim and come around, okay? That's the easiest way to do it. The same principles apply. I can get on my toes, punch, put all that pressure in here. If you do this correctly, he should have pressure on his rib cage, between his rib cage and his arm, because this is inside, and I'm basically wedging something in here and driving it into his rib really hard, okay? Again, no one's tapping from that if they don't want to, but it's a lot of pressure. So if I'm in here, when I drive, I'm driving it into his rib, and if I want to continue that pressure, I'll pull this elbow up and just drive in as hard as possible so he wants to get out. Same principle from here. I'm driving this in, driving it into him, and pulling this way, hard. So he's uncomfortable. Why? Because I want to motivate him to move that way. When I let go, he's going to be so anxious to go and take off that he just gave it to me. And that's getting it from north-south. Finishing up controlling when you're cross sides, north-south, there's obviously knee ride or knee up position. Several ways to get there. One is continuing on with crush sides, putting enough pressure where he's leaning over that way, and then I slide my shin over, and then I'll come up. Okay. Second way, you've started to work for that far arm, but he's hiding it and you can't get in there. All I do usually is grab shorts and I bring my elbow inside as I curl my hands up, and I bring this one across here, do the same thing, so there's pressure on his neck. As I curl this one up, he's going to choke for a moment. Obviously he's going to defend it. As he goes to defend it, I drop the knee into his belly. And this is a good, you want to look out for your training partners. I'm not just crashing into it, but I just do want to affect his breathing for that one beat, okay? So I'm in here, I got this position one, I lean him over to slide over and then come up, picking up the arms as you come up. So I'm in here, I drive him over, I'm driving, shin across. As I lift off the ground, I take the arms with me. Or I'm coming around for this side, he's hiding his elbow, I go here and here, put pressure on his neck, and then boom, okay? Now, to take this, what's usually a typical escape is he's going to deal with my knee. I'm going to have this elbow, I'm going to have this elbow, or I'm going to be attacking his collar, or his pants and his collar, and he's going to push on that knee. As he goes into that knee, that's what I wanted. And we all know this going for the Kimura, going for the far side armbar. But in my case, I'm looking for the harness. Why? Because he also knows it's a far side armbar and far side Kimura. And then if I come around and go for it, he's already got his counter in place. So as he drives in here, all I'm doing is getting this fist in the armpit, falling, hips in, head up, harness. I'm not going to deal with the fact that if I go for an armbar, John grabs my leg and comes over because he had it planned already. He was already on his way out. That's what he wanted. That was his whole thinking process. So instead, I'm here, I'm coming up. Boom, he goes to jump, fall in. Trap, skills going for a Kimura. Hip in, lock. Here, I'll be pushing up, attacking the arms, he's pushing my knee. Fist in, hips up, and go ahead and get your harness. And then obviously, you've seen me getting tight because I'll show you the options in a second. And that's off of a knee right position. How to get the far side arm as well, but it's typical of them pushing on that. Some people also from knee up go into this ankle and try to escape that way. That's fine. They're trying to get to your shorts, or they're trying to block out the ankle to send you backwards or roll you forwards. As he does this, go ahead and he tries to roll me. I'm just going to hip in. There's my punch. There's my landing. There's my hands. Continuation of attaining the harness from different positions. Off a guard pass, we call it the Forklift Pass, but it's double under pass. You're going under both legs. Different variations, which hip to drop in, how to turn, how to reach for the collar or the back of the neck, pulling in on the arms, keeping a back of his knee on your shoulder. But what I want to get into again on this particular tape, there's plenty of tapes on the market on different guard passes that involve the forklift. But what we want to do with this particular pass is both my knees are on the ground for the most part. Sometimes you can do it off of combat base if he's attacking you and one leg's up. So if I'm in here and this leg is somehow playing up here, then I can go for the forklift, okay? When we do the forklift, a couple things you don't want to do. And the reason we call it the forklift is from everything else. Wrestling, the ISR, our structure is always elbows in and the hands here. If I do this, John can underhook and pull me forward, and then he's got all sorts of things. Platas and triangles and such. So anytime that I'm in here, if I do this, he'll just dig under one of the arms, pull me across, drags, everything else is in there. So what I'm going to do is once I go under here, I'm going to have my elbows still on my hips. So I'm still in this position. Sometimes I'll drive my head in, so it's harder for him to dig. And that's exactly what I want. Now, As soon as I get the forklift, I'm reaching for the back of his shorts or his belt, slightly behind the sides. Okay, so I'm in here, I'm gonna be here. Then I'll bring up a leg, and I'm not bringing it out here because I don't want him to dig under my leg and start getting swept. I'm bringing it right next to me. I've had combat base, but just outside his hip. Then from here, I'm gonna just use this leg, if it was a squat, as opposed to my back, and I'm gonna curl a little bit, but the forklift's still in place, and I'm just gonna lift. Okay, as I dump him over that way, typically both arms will flare out. So as I dump him over, he's looking now for a double leg. And it's common. It's a good game. So I'm being cautious. I'm trying to pass. His legs has some motion. I have combat base. If this leg comes up and it's up, I'm going in here. I'm driving down, locking it. Everything in tight so he can't fish underneath. As I lift and I come up, he's going to flare his arms and grab his double. Okay, it's typical. We worked it a lot. But I need to counter that with a forklift pass. So driving in, collar chokes, I'd really drive my head in. Okay, just for the sake of the video so you can hear me speak. I'm not. But with a collar, I don't want to stay here. Obviously, he can dig for my collars. Okay, like, yeah, he can dig inside. I don't want that. So I'd be digging head in so he can't dig in. And then I get my leg up, and then I'm dumping him. Now, I'm going to go ahead and roll you. Go ahead and extend the arms. As he's going to block, what I want you to do is, this leg's going to cover up his bicep, and I'll show it from the other angle in a second. So he can't shoot a double right there. Okay, so let's do it from another side from here. So I'm going to take him over, flare over. I'm going to roll you on that side, actually on this side. As I'm right here, there's his double. Okay, so all I'm going to do is place my shin across it. Now, if he tries to shoot a double, he can't. Okay, one more time. Let's do it from all sides. I'm in here, everything tight. I'm going to go ahead, hide my leg, and I'm going to dump him. As I dump him, there's the arm. See it? Now all I'm going to do is shift. As I shift, here's my arms. Okay? Elbows in, driving him down, especially if it's kimono. Locked and tight, lift. I don't want his feet digging inside my hips. I don't want him playing butterfly or getting any kind of sweeps, elevator. Everything's tight so he can't get in once I do it. It's like a combat base, I'm just outside the hip, okay? In tight, here. As I dump him over, my knee comes in. Can't shoot a double. That's it, he's stuck. The hands just come across, lock, and cinch. And again, we'll get into finishes. I just want to show you how to get it off the forklift pass. Last time. Boom, his legs up, in tight. Pinch everything this time so he can't get in. I had combat base, but he lifted his leg up, so I went around it. So I was here, his leg came up. I got it, pinched everything tight. I'm going ahead and dumping him. His leg's coming over to block that. Boom, he can't shoot his double. Lock it, cinch. Yes, clock chokes and everything else. Rat choke, but harness sticking with that, okay? We finished with the forklift, and we ended up going to side ride, which is in here. When you do a side ride position, I'm going to make sure my knee is inside his. If John tried to pull guard now, slow, and his knee got in front of mine, and we both fell, he'd end up with the guard. So, again, just a quick review. I have this, so if he goes to pull guard, my knees stay in front of his knees, and then I'm always going to end up in cross sides in a safe position. So that's one little detail. When I rest my weight on him, I don't want to lean back too far because he can post his leg behind me and dump me backwards this way. And I don't want to lean too far forward because he can dip his head under and out and I can fall on my face. So I'm going to have to go ride, and that's exactly what it is, side ride. I'm in here. If ever I feel this structure where his arms are solid and he's got a good base, this foot will just take that arm out. Okay, so for the sake of this, he's going to have his arms slightly bent. If he ever straightens his arms out solid and tries to lift me backwards, that's out of the equation. But if you notice, I already have the harness. So we've all been here. I have side ride. I get the harness. Some people right there are starting to feed the kimono for the clock chokes and so, okay, or rat chokes. They're coming around. So this is a side ride. Now, a drill that I do with the kids to get everybody into this is side ride with the harness. Everything's cinched in. I let go. I come to here. I'm in quarter. I let go for a moment. For the sake of drill, I'm using my body weight, bring the knee inside. Harness. Quarter. Harness. Okay? If he's in front of my feet here, I'll show you what you can do later on, but my knee's initially gonna try to always get inside here. Okay, that's just a basic drill. Quarter harness, quarter harness. If he stiff arms and starts to bench press, hook, get it out of the equation. You still keep the harness. From that side right position, we can start going towards taking the back with the harness. Here, switching knees and taking it, and we'll get into that next. All right, leaving off where we were is a side ride, and then we start going towards the back. The back and the harness is probably typically where most people see this position, but side ride, I'm in here. If his arms are really stiff, I'll knock him out with my leg, okay? I'll feed it, maybe he'll go for it. If not, I'm gonna switch knee. We just call it switch knee. I'm switching this knee, where this one's at, and I'm bringing this one up over his back. So a switch knee, I'm gonna leave my hands loose so you can see it, it's just here. Now as I switch knee, ideally, I want this one to take out his. So as I'm landing and hitting it here, and then with the harness, I'm just gonna go ahead and ratchet over this way. Boom, to take them here, and then look for my hooks. If he's really strong and I go to switch knee, if nothing happens, I use that momentum to use this heel, almost if I was kicking him in the groin, just to come in and get between his elbow and knee. Boom, and I'm looking over here. I can keep the harness and ratchet it this way. So I ratchet it that way or this way, meaning I can yank a couple times. Okay, so I'm in here. One is switch knee, pull, take them this way. I try for that maybe. It gets stuck. I come up, I kick, and now as I land, I start yanking this way. Boom, take it this way to get him belly up with the harness. Cinch it above the sternum. Or midpoint, lock in the back and break them down. Here, switch, nothing happened. Here, now once I start breaking them down, I get my other hook, release. I can get my other foot in. We all know 1-2s, 1-2, kick, break them down, okay? Quick review. Cross sides. Take them up this way, there's my harness. Far side. Come around here, drive forward, there's the harness. Knee ride, pushes, there's the harness. I missed it, he goes to his knees. Side ride, there's the harness. He tries to sit out that way, harness in the back, or I can take the back. Okay? Now, if John goes quarter position facing me here, we reviewed going from north-south, quarter position to side ride and side ride, going back and forth. If you notice, this is like a body lock. This is a harness. This is a body lock. This is a harness. Well, then what's a front headlock? It's a harness. I'm controlling the upper part of the body very well by locking over the collarbone and around an arm. So body lock, front headlock, side ride, right, with the harness still. This is a harness. This is a harness. This is a harness. And that's a harness. Those are all locks, and I'll show you how to do submissions from there in a second, but I'm basically controlling the upper body in that way. Okay, what I'd like to do now is start bringing in the idea of submissions and finishes using the harness from all those different positions of transition that we did earlier. And then by the end of the DVD, show it in motion and show how easy it is to get. When it comes to submissions, just like the harness itself, it's a position that I think is always available, and most people bypass or forget because they're going for the primary positions that we all go for: crossbody, scarf, mount, hooks from the back, and so forth. Everybody's so good at defending. If you start using this material, you'll quickly see that people aren't protecting against it, and there's so much to do from it that's our point. So when I show you the submissions that you can get from the harness, typical ones like the Kimura and the armbar will be there, but I think I'd suggest to do more conservative submissions because the game itself is one of control. I'm not looking to, in typical jiu-jitsu, as you get a position and then you go for a submission. This is the same thing, okay, because it is a position. The only difference is it's not looked for. So when I get the harness, I'm looking to finish from there. I'll show you some. The big ones, the big guns, you know, the Kimura and the armbar are there. Collar chokes are there. But just to show you is, let's say we're here in cross body. I'm using crush sides. I'm driving in. He starts to turn that way for whatever reason. I drive in. I secure it. If he was going to try to take off, we all know to control the far elbow, control it, bring him back, and lock it in. Now, I'll get into taking the back, which is he commits and he rolls, and you lost the elbow, and you're going to go for the back. But I like to do some submissions from the side. So I'm in here, and these apply to mount as well. In a second, I'll show you. I'm in this position. One of the fastest ones is, we all know, especially with a kimono, is this hand comes across, and this one goes to the finish here. When you do this one, a lot of people will try to use the fist or will use the fingers. If you use the fingers, they'll collapse on the neck, so it weakens it. If you use a fist, sometimes it can't get in. So I kind of go somewhere in the middle. I kid around with the kids. You name the animal, and this is the paw of it. Leopard palm or jaguar claw or whatever. I'm in here. So I have the harness. I'm just going to come across, and then all I'm going to do is squeeze it in and down this way. And if that doesn't work on everybody, the one that does is from this position is to reach over and grab the tricep. But once I'm in here, that's a finish. Okay? This hand can grab collar or t-shirt, and then this one can reach his fabric if it's a gi. If not, reach for the tricep and then push this one. Okay? And that's all you're doing is shutting this down. That's the first one we use. If this isn't working and he starts pushing this fist up, trying to counter, this fist is closed and he's just driving into it so I can't control it, I'll grab the wrist, and that also finishes it this way. I'm just going to pull it tight. So I'm in here and I drive it down. Okay? So the first one, I didn't need anything. I didn't need his wrist, I didn't need anything. I grab my own wrist, I shut it down, or I grab for the tricep. If I can't reach a tricep because he's pulling away this way, go ahead, I grab the wrist. This goes a little deeper, so I'm using more of the blade of the arm, coming in here, and I'm going in here. Same principle. If that's not going to work, I'm going to drive my body down, reach for that elbow, and then do it, okay? Those are your basics. If this arm comes up straight up, he tries to get out by maybe close his fist and drive it into my neck because I'm trying to push it. He's doing that, and I can't lock it in. He's giving me an arm bar. He's giving me a kimura. So nothing's lost from what we know. So once I have the harness, I can start attacking. Okay, and then if he starts pushing up this way, well, that's what I wanted. Okay, that's our primary one there. Or feed the collar. There's the rat choke. Okay, so those are our primary from there. Another variable from the initial harness control, before you start taking the back, we showed attacking here, reaching for the tricep to finish the choke, reaching to your collar to finish the choke, his collar to finish the choke. If all that's failing, you could lift, slide this elbow down, and start turning the corner, bringing them back down, and then going for arm triangles on this side, this side. We all know to sit out once, maybe to make it tighter, and then drive into the opponent to make it tighter. So I'm open now so John can breathe. But what you're gonna lock it up is, in case I'm in here, I'm trying to go for all this other stuff, it's not working. I lift, I lock, I grab my bicep, I get it tight. Once it's in here, I should be able to finish. If I can't, you can sit into a scarf, makes it tighter. And then from here, if this isn't working, you drive into him and you just grab your elbows and squeeze, so box choke. And that's another variable you can do from the side. Now, if at any point I lose this and he bails, I just open up, follow chest to back, regain the harness, and then go from wherever I'm gonna go. I can go from this harness across this way. Remember how we did earlier? Harness this way. Now, what we usually do though, outside of those and the armbar to kimura, is we sit them and take the back. Okay, so the second I have a harness, I might fidget with these. The beauty of taking the back is this. My goal here is either to switch knee, like I showed earlier, and pull them up, or switch knee the other way and lift them up. So once I have both knees flat, I switch knee this way to pull them on top of me, or I switch knee this way to set them up and then pull them backwards, okay, for the choke. Beauty of all this is, if I'm going for all these moves here, and I'm trying to climb, and I'm trying to shut him down, and it's not working, go ahead and start fighting my hands. He's doing all this, it's not going to stop that. It's not going to stop that. Doesn't matter. I can have a partial collar choke or rat choke and still take the same move. So when I take the back though, here's the detail. I'm not going to put the hooks in this time so you can see it. When I lift them up, this hand has to be on the far shoulder by the time I get up. Okay? So if I'm in here, all I'm going to do is fidget I'm fighting with the wrist, I'm controlling the body. I'm just going to, this hand's got to be across. So by the time I fall back, it's pretty much in place and I finish. So from the harness, I'm in here, control the wrist if you want, grab the collar. As I come up, I'm reaching here. Now, another detail before I put the hooks in is this may or may not work. It's one hand. He might be fidgeting for my wrist. I'm going to put it behind my head. Once I'm in here, he can't get to it as easy, and now I need one arm to choke. And especially with the hooks, because I'll extend my back. So let's go to the forearm for a second. I'm in here. I already got this position, fist in the armpit. I drive over, I'm locked in, I walk him up, I sit him back, this hand goes all the way back across. Side of the neck, and then I just lean back. Continuing on, same thing as if I had knee ride, he pushes. Usually I dip, grab, sit him up, reach across, pull back, same side, finish, finish. If I have north-south and I'm digging under the arms and he's fighting, I'm turning. When I finally grab it here, I'm reaching, so it's already in place, and there's the finish. Hands and knees, if he's not here, I have side rise, I'm here. As I switch knee and I'm falling, this is already finishing. So every position in the harness is to take the back. It's one of the primary positions to take the back, okay? Here, as I switch, side ride harness. If I'm coming over to this side, same principle. This is already locking in. So as I fall, it's already in place. If he's, I'm inside his guard, forklift, dipping him over, I block this arm out, I side ride. As I switch knees, it's already in place. Okay, if you've noticed, the harness is all about controlling upper part of the body and generally speaking, going on and taking a person's back. 4 points in a tournament. Besides that, it's a pain in the butt when you start getting really good at controlling somebody from there. Hard for him to get out. He's all on defense. It's a lot of finishes. So when we were here, if you notice, every time you're falling back with the harness, this is reaching across and going this way. Same side, that way you only need one arm and you fight the hands. If you're here and you're going for a rear naked choke and he starts grabbing your arms, we all know to dig underneath, peel this wrist off, this hand goes down and reaches for your own pant leg. So if I'm in here with the harness, just details when you're up, when you're back there. This is what I usually keep first, okay? Because I want to already have the wrist and I already usually punch on the same side. So as opposed to letting this go and then him fighting me, go ahead, and then having to go back inside, peel it off, grab my own leg, and then start creating space to try to punch through again, I'm already here. I'm already in this position. So since I'm already here, I just punch and then this hand reaches. If he's grabbing this wrist, go, and he's fighting here, this one's coming off. This one will block and grab the leg, but the second I have this, I punch loose again and I come back here. As opposed to, again, let go of that, which we usually have, go here, then he fights it, his timing was right, then I gotta go back in here and do all this other stuff. Okay, so that's one of the details when you're back there, reach the same side. The other thing that occurs is if I'm back in here and he's protecting really well, and I have a harness, go, what I'll do is, the side that's over is I'll turn the head sideways and I'll feed it to this hand. And then there's a neck crank, which is an ugly move, but it's an effective move. So I'm in here, he's got this down, I really can't get in there. It seems like it's gonna be a very hard time. So all I'm gonna do is punch this, the one that's on top with the harness, is put the head sideways. Let go, grab the side of the head. Then I'm bringing the shoulders down and apart. So that's a neck crank. Okay, I pay a chiropractor to do that once a week to my neck anyway. But here it is. So I'm in here, he's fighting it. I don't know if I can get it. Turn it sideways, grab, call it the football, if I'm holding a football, and then I'm gonna pull across. And then, if you notice when he's here, I'll lift and try to crank. If it's not working, this hand now is back in position. As I let go of his head, I'm back where I wanted to be anyway, and there's my choke. So I'm in here working, he's fighting a choke really well. I'm like, it's gonna be hard for me to get that one arm choke there. So what I'll do is feed it with the harness, grab, and I'll attack the neck. And not so much in our school, for example, I don't want to hurt anyone's neck. So when I'm in here, I'm just going to cause enough discomfort, and I'm not going to crank it. All I'm doing is lifting up his chin to get this hand under. So when I let go, his head ratchets back, which is what I wanted, rear naked choke or one arm choke. So this is details once you have the back, assuring that you have this. For sport, because realistically, obviously for self-defense, you're going to be lifting up that head and the choke is there. Okay, from creating a quarter position, which this is just a body lock. We all know that this isn't generally the best position for me to control my opponent, even if I'm yanking my elbows in. John, go ahead and sit out. It's very hard for me to control him if he's going to go that way or go ahead and sit out the other way. It's hard to control. So a lot of people obviously favor front headlock. You're either going to be grabbing the chin, pulling him down, driving your shoulder in, and elongating his neck, putting pressure, and then controlling that tricep, or you're going to be locked in here, keeping your elbows pinched and controlling them here. Front headlock's a lot more stable. But what you can use this for is for that very same reason that it seems like it's a weak point in your structure because he figures he can get out. John's going to go ahead and sit out that way. All I do is keep my chest on his back. One more time. I let it go. It was, in other words, I set it up. I wanted this. He tries to sit out, I just keep my chest on his back. And obviously, there's the harness. Okay, then obviously I can switch knees, pull him this way, this hand's going for the same side choke, or deal with the hands the way I showed you earlier. Okay, so now we're starting to get more into movement. So I'm here, I just gave it, I might have even been here, you're controlling him, I'm going, and he's gonna sit out. Keep chest in. Lock it and play, and feeds if you're working collars, okay? And the way you drill this is easy. I go here, he sits out whichever direction he wants, I follow that way. Trick is just keep your chest on his back. I can be loose, I can get away, I can go the wrong way, go. I can go the wrong way and then come back as long as my chest is inside in position and play. I can always lock in the harness like that. Okay, one more time. Now, from the front headlock, there's a couple things we can do. One is once I'm in this position, is reach across. And the way I'm gonna get that is I'm gonna get the elbow and pin it. Now, a lot of guys will say, hit the elbow and drive it through to get to your bicep so you can start doing a triangle on the head. But sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. What I prefer to do is I'm in here, maybe his elbow's just a little bit out, and I need to drive it in. What I'll use is my knee to drive it in and then lock it. So he's in here, maybe not, maybe not, okay? So I have this position already. Front headlock, I'm back. Up, hit, grab. Now I just sit under my body. This leg kicks out, dip my head under, and we all pretty much should know this choke. I'm in tight. I need to keep him sideways. Walk my hips in, and there begins the choke. He's tapping. If I can, I'll grab something here and then finish the choke. But the detail is in getting that elbow, because that's his safety. That's his safety. I can't lock it in. So I'm trying. Boom, locked it. Then drop my head, cylinder my leg, and I'm in place. Now, if this is in tight, just by squeezing and moving in, I start getting a tap. But I'm always fishing for an ankle or knee. Like if I had a half guard or a full guard, doesn't matter. And then hipping in. Okay? It's a little detail to hit that elbow in. Okay? Now the other one you can do from here, we call it a drop guillotine. Let's go this way, John. When I'm here, all I'm going to do is, I have a front headlock. I'm going to grab his chin with this hand. Front headlock, I just grab his chin. Like if I was driving in with my shoulder, but I'm up here. Now, at this point, if John tries to sit out and I lost it, follow with my chest. There's the harness. Okay, so remember that. One time, front headlock, because I'm not really driving into his head right now. I'm in here, grabbing his chin, and once I grab his chin, I'm going to lock my hands over, like this. This part's going to be choking him. You'll see in a second. I call it drop guillotine. I'm in here, I step over. I'm on one side of his body. Now, depends on your flexibility. We've got guys who just throw the leg over. I sit, okay? But the idea is to have your legs over the guy. So I'm in here. Now watch. As I sit and I start pulling him on top of me, let's go slow, John. This leg's just gotta land here. And what will happen is, John, just come up a second. I will be here. You see it, this leg is pushing his head into my choke, and this leg is bringing him down. And all I'm doing is sinking it in this way, okay? One more time. So I'm in here, I lock it in tighter on his neck, I come up, fall back, lock, and start the choke. Okay? If I had the collar, obviously, John, lift your head, I'd be here and here. But wherever I don't have a collar, and we'll see it in the chin strap DVD, if I don't have the collar, I'm always grabbing the chin, and that becomes the collar. Okay? So if I had a collar or a t-shirt, I might use it. Have the collar here, step over and finish. That's where all this comes from. So from working in gi. That's why I think the benefits of the gi are there, because you can come up with moves you can't do without the gi, and then you find modifications. And I think that's the key. People argue, train in gi, don't train in gi, or train both. And the idea is not to train both so much as whatever I should do with a gi, I should almost be able to do all of it without a gi. The difference or the trick or the creativity involved is finding where that applies. So this is a perfect case where usually I'd be going for the collar, feeding it with this hand to this hand, stepping over, and then finishing. Well, use the chin the same way. Here, here, here. Now, when you sit, make sure this foot ends up right here. Not too far apart. Just like an arm bar, I want to try to get my knees as close together as possible. Once I'm in here, throw this leg over, lock, and there I have him. Doesn't matter where he goes. I want my knees together. Now, here where my hand's at, I'm just going to bring it down as my legs pinch and kick away from me. Okay, very fast choke. So I can have side ride. I can obviously get the harness here. I can go front headlock and already have it. So I don't have to go front headlock, pause, pause, pause. I have side ride or I have quarter. Side ride, right? Front headlock with the step over already in place. So quarter, side ride. As I go for the front headlock, I'm going over with that step over for the drop guillotine. Look. Okay, so I'm here. I'm trying to hit that elbow in with my arm. It's not working. I go for my knee. I'm a little bit off balance. Who knows why? Step over, drop guillotine. So I was going for that arm triangle that I showed earlier. I'm going for that arm triangle, trying to hit that thing. Who knows, man? I start falling off balance. He lifts his head up all of a sudden. Well, guess what? I throw my leg over. As I fall back, there it is. Okay? And that's some creative stuff you can do from a harness as a base position to work from. And that's the fundamental structure of getting to the harness and taking the back and the little details. There's not a lot to it. It's just the game that we all play here at our gym, and from, again, the peewees all the way through the adults. And the reason we play it is because I could be going against a much stronger, bigger opponent that's had a lot more power than me, and I can just hold on like a little monkey to him and just keep that harness until something happens. It's very easy. The finishes there are basically the choke, which is my favorite submission. I think it's the one that I always stress to take the back and go for the choke at our gym. If I'm going against a much smaller and faster opponent, it's a way to catch him. Just stop the motion and control him. His hips can be flipping around like he's a fish out of water, but I have that harness. So it works against those two extremes. Small and fast guy, big and strong guy. And then it also fits into everybody's game. And again, there's no big secret to it. It's just everybody expects, as I pass, go ahead and block my hips. He expects me to go to cross body. So he's going to be using his shins, blocking here or blocking here, and dealing with that. Or he expects to mount. He's got his escapes lined up. And once I have, let's say I have this position, he expects the Kimura. He expects me to come back for the armbar. And instead of doing all that, I just go ahead and get in a harness. And now he's got to deal with this. And this is really hard to get out of. The bottom line is, the more he struggles, I'm feeding. So it's extremely hard. He's got to be very cautious. And right away, let's say he tries to spin out, I can grab his elbow. Now once I grab his elbow, I can control him from going back. If he starts turning back into me, I hip band. We all know this kind of control, but I always go back to this. Why? Because then I can sit out and finish right away. I can always do that. If he gets away from me and goes to his knees, there's the side right again with the harness. If I want to go around the front, there's a harness already. He sits out. Oh, I keep it in. There's a harness again. I'm in this position with the harness. He starts escaping this position. He starts getting away. I back away. Here's a nice neck crank, which all I'm doing is pushing his head in. He sits that way to avoid the neck crank. He just got caught back in the harness again. There's the chokes. There's the sit back. There's the switch knee to pull him back all over again. He gets out that way. I lock it. He's getting away. Sit up. Side right. Jump over to this side with it. There's a harness again. No matter where he goes, it's in place. He's in my guard. I managed to get arm drag. As I sit out and move away, I'm here. Do I jump all the way to the back? What if I'm tired? Harness. He tries to drive into me or sit out, I just back away. Hip out, hip out, hip out. Harness again. He starts coming back up. I let him. I come back, side right. Front headlock with a step over. Drop guillotine. I messed up. His head pops through the middle. Back to a traditional game. Triangle. Platas. He passes. Step out. Just move. Attack. He's here. I come out the back. Instead of going for, let's say, just going for his back, side right harness. Why? Because I got more security, more control. That, if anything, is why we enjoy it. Because it's an entire game based around one position that gives you the back and gives you all these other options. Your arm bars are there, your platas, your triangles, if I have mount. And we all, again, typical, but we don't think about it. All, jiu-jitsu basics, drive over, here. Well, he might expect an arm bar now. He might expect this. He fights this. I'm sure he can't get it. Step off. The heck with it. This is where I want to be. This is all I want. This is all I want to play with here. And that's something that if you work on and just make it part of your game, you'll catch a lot of people that aren't expecting it. Another use for the harness that we in Florida, it's changed a lot as far as licensing goes, as far as NHB. But when we were able to compete in Valetudo or NHB bouts and shoot fighting, where you can't even hit the head and you hit the body, a lot of our guys would use the harness because once you start striking, the person on the bottom can't play a strict jits game, which is even better for the harness because he can't sit there and hold posture this way because he's getting punched. And then a lot of the guys that are even beginners, when they entered these mixed martial arts events, in here, there's not a lot you can do to hit. Obviously, some events used to allow knees to the head, most events don't, so I can't sit here and hit. Hopefully, as he's pushing on me, go ahead and start. I sit out, hit here, try to trap the arm, step back over, control here. All these things that you guys have seen on Matt's tapes, which are NHB oriented, it's all fine. But for a harness, which again is going to create it looks like a looser game, but you're actually creating a tight structure, you're actually getting position from it, is you're pinning, and it could be NHB, and you're trying to fight, but this is not really a position. Kneeing the body, kneeing the head, you can't do it. So right away you jump up and start hitting. What happens right away when someone's getting punched? They either come at you or roll away from you. Either way, I have a harness. So one of the things will work for mixed martial arts right here is we're controlling, they can't really punch. If you can throw knees or show knees, we go. Again, one of the typical ones is to sit out, start hitting as he blocks the punches, trap the arm, go back to your knees and go. But what we like to do is from right here start hitting. As John goes in and starts pushing me to get away, I fall, I trap, I harness, I take the back, which is a finish, jiu-jitsu finish, but applies to MMA. Same thing in here. We're wrestling, I'm in here. I can't knee the head. I can't knee the head, so I'm controlling him. I jump from here, at this angle, to knee up and start hitting. As he tries to get away, if he goes that way, harness. If he gets this way, harness. Okay, now I have this. If he goes to his hands and knees, side ride with the harness. Can't hit the head, probably punch the face, can't hit the back of the head. I'm hitting the side of the face, he goes to block. I can switch knees and take the back. If he goes to his side, he bails into me. Block the far knee, come inside, kill the arm, and hit. So back up, start hitting, he fights, comes around, harness, lock, and play. So it's got its usage, especially for if you allow strikes, because you're going to create space. And if I'm cross body with John, I go knee up and I punch, and I was going to go back to cross body, he might be able to escape, all right? Because he's got his escapes down pat. I lock in the harness and now have his back, and I can also hit from the side ride position. So one of the drills we work a lot as far as the harness, since it's optimal to have the shoulder side up. So if I have a harness on Jonathan here, I want this position up. I wouldn't want to be here, whereas it's in this position because I'm actually not as I don't have as much control. He can actually start getting out. So I always want to try to keep shoulder side up. Now, obviously we're going to try to secure positions with our feet, hooks, and rides, but the problem is you won't always have it and you're in transition. So a drill we do is I'll kind of just lock in the harness and move around slow, and Jonathan will just move around and I'll let him, and he can tumble, he can roll, and I'm not supposed to put in the hooks for this drill. I'm just supposed to make sure the shoulder side's up. If I ever find shoulder side down, I have to figure out a way to adjust to make sure shoulder side's up. So we're just going to move around, I'll lock in, and he'll start moving, go. And I'll just have to follow to this side. But if you notice, this shoulder side's down, so I don't want to be here. So I might have to come back and adjust so shoulder side is up. And then he'll keep moving around. Let's just play around. I'll pull him back. He jumps out, shoulder side's down. I gotta bail, I gotta go to this side. Shoulder side's gotta be up. He goes this way. I gotta pull him to try to control it, and there's shoulder side up. When I have the harness and I'm in this position, if the guy's arms are extended anyway, we know to hook it and take it outside. So the harness is still in place. Plus I have chokes now, because he's only got one arm to defend. So much like if I was behind him, I'm grabbing the wrist, I'm lowering my head, and there's the choke with a single arm. So if ever I have side ride, this person's kind of trying to lift me up, I'm not going to so much, come back to your, he might be trying to throw me backwards, and we'll just go rudimentary, like it's really basic. I'm not even going to try to, I could easily switch knees and take his back with the harness. But all I'll do is anytime there's an extension, say we're really low, bend your arms, and he does any kind of push-up motion, push up, train just to trap that leg. And then you're in place with that one arm choke. Then you can move wherever you want to go. There's an incidental arm bar here, maybe. But what I'm looking for is this choke here. Now, what will happen is there'll be several counters that come from side right. One of them is I'm in here, is to block out here and block out that knee and roll me forward. But remember what my main objective is, that single arm choke. I'm in place, it doesn't matter. So even if I get rolled, he's going under, okay? Not that I would, because I'd be switch kneeing, okay? But I'm in here, one more time slow. As he's here rolling me, I already have this one arm in place. That's enough to start the choke or bring me back up. Now, with that same move, I could beat it with timing if my game is good and I've been working on that shoulder side up drill. So I'm in here, he goes to roll me, here and here, I can throw my leg behind him and have a single choke and back pedal and choke here. Okay? So it involves timing with those type of counters. The other counter that's typical is I'm in here, he sits backwards and sends me this way. So as he switches knees, he's going here and one. I still have that one arm choke. Okay? If Jonathan has harness on me here, and he's in good position, he can lock your hands with the harness. He's in place, he's in game. He's long, so he's got his elbows, okay? Remember the different types of harnesses. But even if he's got palm-to-palm grip, he'd have to cinch those elbows good. Here, one of the other counters, I'm gonna sit in, scoop, and send him slow motion this way. But if he knows this, one, he can switch knee and get behind me. So if I'm moving here, switch, there it is. Now I'm really in trouble. Did you get that, T? All right, next one, same motion though. Jonathan can just get that single arm choke in place. So he's got harness, he's locked in. I go to switch knee, look what happens. Even if I go to here, I'm being choked out. That's why that one arm choke, whenever you're falling anywhere, really has to come across and lower your head. Your hand won't meet your neck. You gotta lower your head. So if I'm in here and I'm gonna choke, I lower my head as I lock it in place. That's what allows that choke. I'm on side ride. What they'll try to do sometimes for side riders, also as a counter, is they'll slide this arm back and around. And it seems like all of a sudden I'm off balance because shoulder side up is being compromised, or so it seems. From here, again, if my reflexes are right and I've trained this, I'm always gonna have that one arm choke. So if I have side ride, my knee wants to be between his elbow and his knee anyway. So it's gonna be very hard for him to get his arm back, okay? So that's out of the way. But I mess up and it's kind of hanging out. When I'm in here, he goes to sit back, all right? And also, we all know basic, all the regular jiu-jitsu. His arm comes behind me. The second I'm here, I'm releasing the harness, kicking through, and I'm attacking towards a plata. And when I do the plata, one of the things that I learned from Chris Howder is rather than do it here, he'll control the hips and scoot out outside to collapse the body and then come up. But that's not all plata tape. So bottom line is I'm in here, he scoots behind me, I'm choking him already. Even if I didn't have the choke, I'm kicking under and across, scooting out and coming up. For the person who wants to pull guard, they've got to get this knee across the front of mine, here. And then by falling sideways, they can control my knees if they want with this hand, whatever. As he falls sideways, I'm ending up inside his guard. Again, so that's not so much a counter to the harness, but a counter to the side ride. If I have the side ride correctly, and we'll go slow, every time his knee gets in front of mine, I'm going to have to adjust and get it across his, always. Okay, because what's happening is, if he gets it in front of me, he can pull guard. But if I get it in front of his, he can't, so we'll go slow. If my knee's in front of his, and all of a sudden he goes to pull guard, all I'm doing is blocking out and driving forward, and he's going to be in worse trouble. Okay? Again, this is not putting into place that single arm choke. Back up a little bit. The other thing is, I'm in here. He brings that knee in front. That's my cue. I'm not letting him pull guard. I'm either going to be choking him, or as he pulls guard, I'm moving behind him with it. I'm in play. Okay? It's not a static position. It is timing. But how long is it going to take if I have, for example, quarter position? As soon as I'm in side ride, my head's down and I'm fishing for this. So he puts his knee in front of me and goes to pull guard. It doesn't matter. I'm choking already. Also, he puts his leg behind me again. And he puts it in front. Sorry, your knee in front of me again. He puts his knee in front of me again. What's to stop me here from going into a switching order front headlock? So his knee's in front, and I just switch to here. His plan's out of the equation. It's out of the way. When you have the harness from the back, a couple of details is, if I just lock the harness on Jonathan here, and I were to sit back, he'd keep his knees near his shoulders, So I couldn't get hooks in, and then he can start trying to bail out. Then I'd have to follow, trying to keep shoulder side up or my chest on his back. So one of the things I want to do is, if I'm ever on someone's back here, is I want to bring their head to the floor between their knees. This will force all the weight onto his feet. So if I'm in here, try to lift your feet up, it's hard for him to lift his feet off the ground. So if we were rolling, all of a sudden he comes up and we're here, I'm going to keep his head down. And I'm going to keep this in place until I put a hook in. So I'm going to have him here until I put a foot inside his thigh. Once that at least one foot is inside, I'm going to fall back. As I fall back, I'm going to twist the harness one way as the hook twists the other way. This forces that hip to become available so I can then put in that next foot. Okay? So anytime you have somebody down, put in one hook. And you won't always have the choice. Ideally, I want opposite of the shoulder. So if I have this, I want this. But I won't always have the choice. He might be twisting that way, and all I can get was this. I'm going to fall back, twist this way, pull the hook this way. There's the hook on the other side, and I'll follow behind. So one of the things you have to secure is that his knees doesn't come up and block you from putting in your hooks. Anytime we're back here, we want to try to finish as fast as possible and not have him try to escape. If he does escape, shoulder side up like we talked about earlier. Now what's going to happen is, from this harness position, I ideally want to go for a choke, but if I go for a traditional rear naked choke, he's usually going to attack this area. Okay, so in motion, what you really want to do is have your head down and grab the back of your neck, as I stated earlier. This saves you a lot of time. So if he's trying to attack this arm, I'll take off this wrist. He has one arm left. I grab the back of my head, and then from here, by arching, that starts to choke anyway. So once I've dealt with this first grip, I can work with that single arm choke. So I'm here trying to choke, he blocks, and I can't get it. Remove this wrist, which we all know. Then what I do is I'm going to lower my head and grab the back of my neck. Now by pushing his hips that way and curling my head backwards this way, I start the choking process here. Then at the last minute, once he's here, if this doesn't do it, I can always slide back for the rear naked choke. But sometimes his grip's really good, and I can't get back here. I strip one, but he moves his hand up towards the wrist because he knows what he's doing. This hand here goes up towards the wrist, which is the key factor. Because if he's in the crook of my arm, go back to the crook, I can still have game. I can still go back here and choke. But he goes and he adjusts and he's got the wrist again. So I'm in trouble. Once he grabs the wrist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for my knee and sit back up. Now here, both arms are out of the way on his part, but I really don't have a choking mechanism. So what I'll do with this hand is I'll dangle it out and trap with my foot. Now I'm back to where I want to be, one arm choke. I lower my head and then I lift it out, and there begins the choke. So one more time. I go for a rear naked choke. He catches both hands on the wrist area. Boom, I try to do that. I clear one, but as I clear it, he moves towards the wrist and hand. So I still can't do that single choke. I sit back as I catch my knee, taking this arm out of the equation. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to kick my leg wide and pin it over this wrist. Here. Once that's trapped, I lower my head again and begin that single choke, or I release his hand and go for the prototypical rear naked choke. Off the same attacks, going for the choke and fighting, clearing one, and then clearing two, and then trapping that arm up, is obviously if I move to the side going for that single arm choke and I start fighting this, you're also in the perfect angle to push away. We all know this is kick it over and you have the arm bar in place. But you also have, from right in here, once you kick this leg over and you're in place, all I'm going to do is grab my shin across. So I'm in here, he catches a choke, clear one, clear two, sit back, throw this over. Grab my shin, and all I'm going to do is scoot backwards. And as I scoot backwards, I'm going to triangle my legs, but I've got to get that curl. Once I've scooted backwards, I might be able to cause a triangle, but what I'm really looking to do is continue backwards and then sit up. As I sit up, much like if I was going to do a hip bump, it'll start a choke. The shin's right under the chin already, and I've already got the shoulder into the neck, and I just sit up this way. All right? If this were to fail you, if he had any kind of barrier, if the foot was inside, it's very easy to transition back to an arm bar. Okay, so one more time. I'm in place here. I've got this cleared out of the way. All I'm doing is grabbing my shin and sitting backwards and scooping underneath him here. Once I'm here, I triangle, I sit up. If this were to fail me, here's a tap. But sometimes his chin is down, he's too strong, his arms are wide. All I'm doing is locking this arm back up and turning around here for the arm bar. Okay? Sometimes as far as cleaning up that same triangle, I got one, I have two, I grab the shin, I scoot out, I'm in here. A way to cause a triangle is, obviously I want to push this arm across, okay? So when you lift up, if you lift to the side, sometimes there's pressure here, and you can get it. Sorry. But ideally I want to go forward, because This is incidental. If it happens for me, but I really want to cause that choke with the shin and calf muscle going under his chin. Okay? So it's here. All right, now the other one that I like to do from there is, once I'm in this position and I'm fighting off the arms, sometimes it's just so hard to get in here that all I basically have is I'm fighting and I can't get loose, or I'm stuck in here. What I'm gonna do is pretty simple. I'm already underneath the arms. All I'm gonna do is bring one leg up and bring it inside here. Okay, it's basically like going for omoplata from the back. So we're fighting, I have the wrist, we're controlling in here. All I'm gonna do is strip this first wrist and come up. All I'm gonna do here is grab this shin here. Now, from this position, I have a crucifix. All I'm gonna do is, go this way, see where I'm at? All I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna kick this leg as if I was gonna bring my knee towards me, and an arm bar, I'm going this way. And there's a tap, okay? So from this angle, I'm in here. See where his arms are at? I'm just gonna exaggerate the motion. All you're doing is, since you're underneath already with the hooks, and your hands can be fighting different angles, is you're grabbing and moving this to here. Now you're in play. You circle out, and now once you circle out and grab here in the elbow, this foot's just he's trying to come down and going in this way. Ideally, if he's really flexible, you'd be all the way to here with that arm trapped. Okay, last time. So go to the angle. So I'm in here trying to fight that choke. He's fighting me in here. Watch. Foot comes up, I grab here. This arm just grabs across to this arm, and there's your move. What'll happen here sometimes, and Jonathan's going to demonstrate, is you don't catch that forearm. So ideally, his leg will be behind my head, and you'll have this arm in place. And once he grabs here, there's your move, right? But sometimes this arm gets loose. You didn't catch it in time, your technique wasn't right. So this arm's free. They'll typically turn away. All you gotta do is go arm bar this way and go belly down with it. There it is. So one more time. I'm trying to fight the choke. He did this arm out of the way. It's trapped. He's gonna go for that same motion with this leg, but this arm got loose. He missed it. All he does is goes on his knees, and there's the finish. When the harness is in place from the side, we know to ratchet. So I might be here. All I'm gonna do is shuck him forward, get my chest behind his back slowly so I can start moving. A lot of times though, this wrist is available. And we showed earlier different finishes you can work off that wrist. But one of the things you can do by controlling this wrist is, here I am in the harness, to control this wrist, is by now lifting up this elbow up, I can have him turn a little bit more. So in aiding me to turn, he's here, I ratchet him to this position. All I gotta do from right here is lift this across. That helps his body turn a bit. So besides my ratcheting behind his body to make him turn, let's say he's kind of low, once I'm in here, I'll grab the wrist, and he's still kind of low and I can't quite ratchet. I'll lift that elbow up to drive my hips under. And as I keep prying this up, that gives me plenty of room. Even if he was bringing his knees up to defend, let's say his knees are up here. He's not letting me bring my hooks in. By flaring this up, that gives me the space now to bring my foot in and start working. So you see what's happening is, I have him in the harness. He brings his knee to his body. He might even catch it good. He wants to block that out. He doesn't want me to bring my hooks in when I do slide him up. And when I do bring him up, he's gonna keep doing that. So I can't even push his head down really to get him. So if I'm in here and his knee's up, I'm gonna start trying to choke him. As he goes to defend, that's the wrist I want. So now his knee might still be in place. All I'm gonna do is lift this elbow up, and that allows me to get my leg inside.